Welcome to On the DOT. On today's episode, we speak to Deputy Commissioner of People Services, Angela Roosa. INDOT recently made major changes to the pay scale for skilled labor positions. Angela talks about the process of making those changes happen, how we're actively working to recruit new people, and the benefits that come with state employment. During the conversation, Angela also talks about opportunities that INDOT offers not only for skilled labor and entry-level positions, but also engineers and for established employees looking to make career moves. Before we begin, please take a moment and download the INDOT app for Apple and Android devices. You can also listen to previous episodes of On the DOT by searching INDOT on YouTube. Now let's join INDOT Southwest Communications Director Jason Tiller for his conversation with Angela Roosa.
This is Sergeant Todd Ringel with Indiana State Police. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, distracted driving claims thousands of lives every year. Many drivers use their cell phones while driving. That creates an enormous potential for fatalities and injuries on our roadways. Distracted driving is any activity that diverts your attention from driving, including talking or texting on your phone. You cannot drive safely unless the task of driving has your full attention. You can help us reduce crashes by putting down your cell phone, avoiding all other distractions, and just drive.
Welcome to On the DOT. I'm Jason Tiller, Communications Director for INDOT Southwest, and it is my distinct pleasure to be joined by Angela Roosa, our People Services Director at INDOT. Angela, how are you?
I'm doing great today. Thanks for having me, Jason.
Oh, I'm glad to have you on. And so let's just kind of jump into the big topic of today, which is, INDOT recently made some pretty significant increases in salary for our skilled positions, and previously that maybe we had not been competitive in. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so you're absolutely correct. The agency is about 2/3 the skilled labor trades, and they're super competitive for a couple different reasons. One of the reasons is the supply just isn't there, right? So lots of people have kind of shied away from some of the trades, the skilled stuff, CDL drivers, mechanics, some of those things where you really have to be, you have to be able to work with your hands. You have to have a specific skill set, right? So you have to be smart. You have to know. You have to be smart, obviously, but you also have to be able to work with your hands, and not everyone can do that. And the vast majority of people these days are pushed more towards college and universities, and so they're going into these collegiate environments and going to school, and that's great. But there's not the people out there that we are looking for to fill the roles that we need to be able to problem solve, work with their hands, obtain a CDL in a lot of our positions, and so the market is really it's really tough, right? So there's just not enough people out there to fill the positions. So we had to look at how do we fill those positions to make sure that we're keeping our roads safe for Hoosiers. That's our primary responsibility, is keeping those roads safe, whether it be through filling potholes, maintenance, chip seals, those kinds of things, or snow removal. And so we recognized this, and we did a couple different labor analysis, kind of salary surveys of competing markets. So positions that require a CDL, local and county governments, some of those places that were direct competition for us, the RV market, right? And we determined that we were significantly behind in wages. And so it really became an issue of, how do we bridge that gap? How do we bring us up to be more competitive? We know we have some great incentives for folks, but we also know that people, those incentives sometimes, aren't exactly what people are looking for. Sometimes they're looking for that money.
Well, and I was going to say, let's just call it what it is. People are looking for a comfortable wage. I mean, it's something that's taken up on a national level. Wages are a huge thing, especially in this day and age where we've got, costs of everything going up. I mean, if you look from now to 10 years ago, housing market has risen significantly. The cost of life is huge. It's way more than it was, even 10 years ago.
Absolutely. That's absolutely true. So, we're trying to compete. We, as we're a state agency, and at the state of Indiana, there are classification systems. So we're kind of, it's kind of set for us what we can pay our employees, and it's very difficult to get those the classification pay ranges change sometimes. So this was really an astronomical improvement that we made. So happy to be a part of it. Based on the wage studies and based on some things that had happened at Department of Corrections, which is a sister agency of ours, but we are typically looking at the same candidate pool for our entry-level position. So for us, that would be our Highway Technician 3 positions. For Department of Corrections, it's their correctional officer trainees. So we kind of modeled somewhat after them. But Kim Allman, I have to give a huge shout out to her, the HR director for the agency. She put a lot of this information together because if you mess with, it's like a Rubik's Cube, right? So we tweak this wage for the Highway Technician 3, and then it had all of these rippling effects, I think to 29 different classifications. So 2,000 employees and like 2,500 positions. So it was a lot, but we really kind of had to ensure that career paths stayed the same. Right. So if we for instance, we took the Highway Technician 3, the entry level position, from $16 an hour to $19 an hour. That's life changing, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely it is. It's amazing too because, not only was it we take the HT3s from 16 to 19, but there were other CDL classifications as well that, maybe they weren't even making 16 an hour, and they got huge bumps because the minimum now for any CDL position is 19, correct? Or something similar to that at the very least.
Yes. So we technically say our Highway Technician 3 is our entry-level position.
Okay.
And that's kind of opens up the pathway to all these other different areas, right? So these different divisions. So from a highway technician position, you can go and be a mechanic, or you can go the construction pathway or testing, or even into like an engineering assistant pathway or a project manager. Heck, we've even had highway technicians that have promoted and taken a career pathway all the way up into a district leadership position. So that's huge, right?
I think our DDC in Crawfordsville, I think that was similar to his path.
That's correct. Yeah. So he took advantage of the opportunities available here at the agency and was able to obtain his education and further his skill set. And absolutely. So we have career pathways for folks once they get here, but sometimes it's just about attracting them. And that hourly wage is a huge piece of that.
It really is. And, we're not we're not unique in that respect either, because it feels like, especially post-pandemic, we're starting to see a lot of businesses really take a hard look at their salary because they're finding it difficult to find workers. And for whatever reason, I know a lot of people have opinions on what that may be, but for whatever reason, it's the reality. I mean, we're seeing, restaurants closing a day a week, or Walmart, I know, at least in Vincennes, I don't know where it is everywhere else, but they're not doing overnight hours anymore. It's no longer a 24/7 operation because they just don't have the people to maintain everything that they've got going on. So, INDOT, it's not a unique problem to us, but on the same token, we also do have a bit of a uniqueness to our situation because we are a state agency and we are taxpayer funded. So it's not like we can just jump in and say, oh, we're just going to give everybody $20 an hour, right?
That's correct. Yeah, absolutely. So there is a labor shortage nationally. So that kind of compounded our problem, right? So not only we know there's been an issue with finding the supply to fill the demand that we have with CDL drivers, but it's also now there's a labor shortage, right? So how do we do that? We continue to see our headcount go down, and one of the things is that in some of our metropolitan areas we would hire 50 people a month, but we would lose 70, right? And part of that is when we would hire those folks in. So we're unique here at INDOT. We will hire you without a CDL license, and we give you 90 days to get it. And not only do we give you the 90 days to get it, we'll train you, we support you, we pay for you, and once you get that CDL, that was fantastic. You're fully actualized Highway Technician 3, but oftentimes you'd be right for the picking. So somebody else would come along and they would scoop you up.
Yeah, I've heard more than once that we were kind of a recruiting ground for like trucking companies and things like that.
Yes, trucking companies, local government, they're facing the same challenges we are, but they require you to come with a CDL. So we would invest this time into an employee and then they would leave for more money. So one of the things that we did add with this new pay skilled trade labor compensation package was when an employee comes into a CDL required position, once they obtain that CDL, they will receive a $1 increase. So it starts out at $19 an hour for Highway Technician 3. I'm going to say that because that's what we have the most of. So Highway Technician 3 comes in. They start at $19 an hour. Once they obtain their CDL successfully, then they receive a $1 increase. So that's $20 an hour.
Yeah, and $20 an hour, that's nothing to scoff at. Even if we're lower than other places, even local governments, trucking companies, things like that. I mean, we still $20 an hour plus all of the perks that you get for being a state employee. Like I still to this day, I've been with INDOT now for 6 going on 7 years, and I'm still learning about some of the perks that we get potentially. Like you can go on and Google SPD discounts for state employees. I did not realize that until I started looking for a car recently, that we get like discounts on just about everything, travel, hotels, and those are all partnerships and they're not endorsements by any stretch of the imagination, but these are just a few of the perks that you get working for, the state that you don't get working for private industry. So Angela, let's pivot just a second. We've talked about the amount of money that we're getting and the amount of training that we provide and just, some of the really cool things that we do to get people in the door. Now let's talk about how we keep people here. I mean, let's talk about the perks. Let's talk about the holidays. Let's talk about the benefits package. Let's talk about all the things that we've got that make us unique and that makes us a unique experience and a place to really make your career.
Yeah, sure. So, we get employees here, and then we often talk about total compensation, and what that means is we take a look at employer-provided benefits. So whether that is health benefits, dental, vision, our health savings account that is, funded, depending upon the plan you choose. It's funded at a certain percentage, I think 45%. We also have, like you said, all of these state discounts. We have Public Employees Retirement Fund, which is huge. It's called InPurse now, but it's a public funded retirement account for people that become vested with the agency or with the state agency. That's huge. A lot of employers don't provide pensions anymore, so that's huge. We also have Hoosier Start, which is similar to like a cafeteria plan or a 401k, similar to those, where the state matches up to $15 per pay period. INDOT is very unique as an agency, even if you talk to other agencies. So before I came to INDOT, I was with a couple of different agencies, and INDOT was always known for a couple things. Their employee development. Mm-hmm. They are very dedicated to investing in their employees and developing them. So certifications, licensures, those things can be reimbursed or even paid for. They have we work really hard to provide career paths for folks. So it's not just a job. It could be a career for you. You could start as an HT and end up running a district someday.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of upward mobility from what I've seen, even just in the time I've been here. You see people start off at, that HT3, that entry level, and then work their way up. I mean, I can tell you, at least just in our district alone, of several people who have done that, and they've gone on to do really great things. I mean, I think of, I'm going to call him out here, Chris Gentry. He started out on that kind of entry level plane, and now he's running our technical services department in Vincennes. Yeah. There are tons of success stories like that you don't see, especially in private industry, because you mentioned, a lot of private industries don't offer pensions, and you got retirement plans and things like that the employee contributes to, but I don't think anyone else contributes the way we do as far as an employer goes. And you see all that coupled with the the labor shortage, and also companies working to try to get people in the door and paying them more. But I mean, some places, you see them cutting those benefits because they're trying to pay people more and get people in the door, and it's a sacrifice they're making just so that they can operate daily.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, in the last couple of years, we've actually increased some of our benefits for our employees. So we've increased our tuition reimbursement it's now $5,000 per fiscal year. That's a lot. I mean, if you add that to your salary, if you look at it that way, so let's say you make $30,000 a year, you add another $5,000 on top of that. And that's an opportunity. Of course, you have to work hard and you have to, take the opportunities that are given and have the right skill set. But that's an opportunity to upward mobility, right? Like you said, and continue your career. That's huge. The way that this agency invests in their employees is not seen at many other places, right, of employment. And that's something special and unique. And I always like to recognize that we do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Angela, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll discuss our agency's the wage increase and some of the logistics of that and a couple other things. We'll be right back with more on the DOT.
Hands-free is now the law in Indiana. That means you can't have a mobile device in your hand while driving. Help make Indiana roads safer. Learn about the new law at handsfreeindiana.com.
How does $20 an hour sound? Entry-level positions now start as high as $20 an hour at the Indiana Department of Transportation. No CDL? No problem. We'll pay for your training and you'll still make $19 an hour until you obtain your CDL. There's never been a better time than right now to start your career at INDOT. Go to indotjobs.com or text INDOT Careers to 468-311 to apply now. And welcome back to On the DOT. Angela Roosa, People Services Director, is our guest this month. And we had a really great conversation. Not only are we increasing our wages for skilled positions to $19 an hour, you get a bonus dollar once you get your CDL. Now, let me ask you this before we move on to our next topic, Angela. If you come in with a CDL already, do you still start at $19 or do you get the $20 right off the bat?
So that's a great question, Jason. And you would get the $20 right off the bat, right? So if you come in with a CDL, then we would honor that and start you at the $20 an hour.
All right. So shameless plug: come to INDOT with a CDL. We'll pay you $20 an hour right off the bat. So, Angela, we talked a lot about the pay, and we talked about some of the perks of working for INDOT. Let's talk about some of the other really good things that we offer that you don't see in private industry. And I want to start off by talking about work-life balance. One of the things that I thought was amazing when I started working here was that we get vacation time, and we get it one day a month instead of like in a lump sum. But the cool thing is it does not expire. And that was just, it was crazy to me to think that. But then, I get here and I've been here for so long, and you see people who have built up so much time, like they could take off every Friday from here to the end of time. So let's talk about that, because we really do have an awesome work-life balance as far as, benefits of vacation and sick pay and things like that go.
Yeah, so I think we do have a great work-life balance, and I think that's why a lot of people come to the state, and a reason why a lot of people stay at the state. So just anecdotally, that's one of the reasons why I have been with the state for 14 years. I have children. I enjoy the work-life balance. I enjoy the prioritizement of my family, right? And the ability to do so at the state, and to have those holidays and time off with my family, have the 12 vacation days at a minimum a year to rest and recharge and be with my family. So I appreciate that. We also receive six sick days. Try saying that fast.
I was going to say that 7 times fast.
6 sick days a year to use, and then also 4 personal days, so to use as you choose. So there's a lot there. We also get, I think, on average about 13 paid holidays a year, which is nice.
Yeah, I did up the math one time, and I think between holidays and sick and personal and vacation time, depending on whether or not it's an election year, you get 36 to 39 days off a year, which, that's an entire month plus.
That is. And in my position as an executive here at INDOT, I experience a good amount of work-life balance. I do what I need to do. I work the hours that I need to work, but I don't feel like my family suffers at all for that. My work is important to me. My job is important to all of us, right? We all are it's important to all of us, but I think our family takes that number one spot. So that's really encouraging and something that we do like to promote.
Yeah, absolutely. And so with the work-life balance, with the new pay, what do you guys expect, or I say you guys, but it's us as an agency, what do we expect to start seeing within the next little bit? Because I know we're advertising that we have the new pay rate, but we also, as part of that total package, we discuss the home life balance, and we talk about the holidays. So with all of those factors at play, and then advertising on the radio, and I know we're on Pandora and some things like that, what are the projections as far as what we expect for new people coming in the door?
Well, we hope to staff up, right, and to be back to where we were a year ago, right? So we've seen a steady decline, probably of over 100 positions being vacant. We hope to hire those folks, fill those positions, so that way we can do the best job possible for the citizens of the state. We are holding monthly hiring events, so it's not just I wouldn't say a career fair. It's actually a hiring event. We're looking to hire people. We're doing those every month throughout the state, and they are being advertised typically on local news, in our Facebook pages, and on our social media, INDOT social media. And if you don't follow INDOT social media, you should, because it's really great information. But yes, so monthly we're having hiring events where we're hopefully it is hopefully resulting in hires, not just conversations, not just, you're filling out an application. Hopefully it's resulting in you coming to work for us and earning that $20 an hour.
Absolutely. So if somebody wants to be involved in one of these hiring events, what do they do? I mean, you said they follow us on social media. You can find the dates out, but we also, publicize those far and wide. So give me a kind of an idea of what happens. Does somebody just walk in off the street? Do they have to schedule an appointment? How does that work? And then once they're there, what's that process like? Because I know sometimes it can be a bit of a task getting people officially applied. So do we have people that walk people through that? How does that go?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're having them statewide. So from border to border, we identify places in each district. So we have 6 districts. We identify places in each district to set up, and we advertise that information. Typically, we do a statewide kind of media blast, and we also do it on the social media. And then you'll also see it locally. So you'll see some of our info signs up in front of our subs and our units, even in front of the district, or even sometimes on the highways, saying, hey, we're having a hiring fair. You'll come in and we will walk you through that process. We have people there, human resources. We have a great human resources team, and they will greet you and kind of help you through that process. We have hiring managers on site to interview you, and then we go through the rest of the process. Because it's a CDL position, it does require a drug test, so you have to pass a drug screen, and then a limited criminal history, or a background check. You have to complete a background check as well. But yeah, we are there, ready. We mean business. We're there to hire, not just kind of have those conversations. We're there to take action, not just talk.
So potentially at one of these events, if somebody were to come, they could literally walk away from that event with a job.
They could, as long as they follow through and do, follow the requirements that are needed. Yeah, they absolutely could.
So there you go. If you're out there listening, that's, it's huge. INDOT's doing open interviews, basically.
Yep.
That's what it boils down to.
Absolutely.
So, Angela, let's take another quick break. This is a shorter segment. But when we come back, I want to kind of pivot a little bit and talk about other things under your umbrella at People Services. And we'll discuss some of those things a little more in depth. You're listening to On the DOT. We'll be right back.
Before 1989, INDOT was known as the Indiana Department of Highways, but highways became transportation, and our logo tells the story why. Only one of the 4 icons, the car, represents Indiana roadways. The airplane, the train, and the bus represent some of the other modes of transportation that our multimodal division helps manage. Along with the Federal Highway Administration, INDOT works with federal agencies for rail, aviation, freight, and transit. To learn more, visit us online at multimodal.indot.in.gov. INDOT, we're more than just Hoosier Roads.
Somebody needs to report that pothole.
Why aren't they mowing the grass in the median?
When are they going to fix this road?
You know there's an easy way to get answers to those questions and report the problems you see on interstates, U.S. routes, and state roads. Dial 1-855-INDOT-4U to talk to a live customer service professional. That's 855-463-6848. Hate talking on the phone or have a fear of human interaction? We've got you covered. Go online to INDOT4U.com to use our Report a Concern tool. You can also report a concern through our INDOT mobile app for iPhone and Android. If you've got questions, we've got answers at 855-INDOT4U or online at INDOT4U.com.
And welcome back to our final segment of On the DOT. Again, I'm joined by Angela Roosa, our People Services Director here at INDOT. And Angela, I should have asked you this from the get-go. That's your actual title, right? People Services Director, or is it Executive Director?
People Services Deputy Commissioner of People Services.
See, and I'm sitting here giving her a demotion on the air.
No,
I apologize.
that's okay.
So,
Okay.
But you've been so gracious. Thank you. So we talked during the break about a couple more things that we wanted to briefly mention, or maybe not so briefly. It's up to you. But we have a couple. We spoke about entry-level positions like our HT3s, but we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the opportunities that we have here for engineers. And I know we employ all disciplines of engineering, whether it's traffic engineering, civil engineering, whatever the case may be. There are tons of opportunities here at INDOT for those people. Can you talk a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, so, engineers are super important to INDOT, right? We have to have them to be able to do our business and design, build, maintain these roads, right? So bridge, hydraulics, I'm sure I'll miss some, traffic, design, you name it. If it has to do with the highway, we have the engineers to do it. So we have some really great programs for new engineers. So we have a scholarship program for those folks that are in college that are, going through the 4-year curriculum to become an engineer. We have a scholarship program for them. And then we also have a graduate engineer development program. It's a 12-month rotational program for engineers. They get to go through all the different disciplines and construction, hydraulics, and see what those are. And so that way they can kind of narrow down their scope and what they really want to do a little bit more. It's a great program. We've had so much success with it. And it's really exciting to see what those folks learn.
So if I'm an engineering student, how do I get involved in that?
So it's our talent management division, which again, they're great. They're fantastic. They have a website that we can link them to, and there's an application process for both of those programs.
Okay, excellent. And so one more thing before we kind of pivot and go a different direction entirely with this episode. We talked about our need for people and, there being a labor shortage, but I think, our message should be, everywhere is in need of people. But from your experience, what are the most important, well, I don't want to say important, what are the greatest areas of need as far as physically? Where do we see more people? Where do we see more turnover, or where do we need people the most specifically?
Sure. So it tends to be our more metropolitan, more highly populated areas that we tend to see more turnover, more vacancies. So, Indianapolis is huge, right? There's a lot of competition there. Elkhart, a lot of competition. Fort Wayne, South Bend areas. Gary, Evansville, those largely populated areas are where we tend to see the most. We have some competition from Louisville, Cincinnati, for Seymour District. So it's those large cities.
All right. So if you live in a large city, we are especially looking for you. So, Angela, I appreciate it. We've got just a few minutes left here, but I wanted to take a minute and pivot and talk a little bit about other things under your purview. Now, we've had Melissa Murphy on this podcast, and she gave us a really great overview of our diversity and inclusion, but it seems like we're rebranding that a little bit now. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we are. So Melissa has been with the agency, a little bit over a year, and she kind of has come in and done an assessment of the agency, and we have determined that we really kind of want to focus more on inclusion and belonging. So we've changed her title to the Director of Inclusion and Belonging, and that's really just about making people feel like we want them here, they belong here, and what makes them different is important, and we appreciate that, and we respect that. So it's all about being respectful and feeling like, INDOT is the place for you to work.
And, I really agree with that, because that's my boss, Rusty Fowler. One of his big things is basic human respect. And I think I mentioned that I bring the diversity and inclusion, or the inclusion and belonging,
That's okay.
into the conversation, because it ties in so well with what we've spoken about throughout the rest of this podcast. Because in order to retain people, in order to keep people in the door once we've got them here, we've got to make them feel like they belong and like they're respected. Would you agree?
I would agree with that. So Katie Thurman, my talent management director, she's awesome too, by the way. I'm going to plug all my people because they're great. Melissa's great and Katie's great. All of them are great. But she just said to me this week, she heard this at an HR conference, employees come to work for a paycheck. Where can they get a paycheck? Any employer. And who's hiring right now? Everywhere. So what makes us different? What makes people want to work for us? That's important right now. Oh, it's always important, but especially right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I can tell you, before I came to INDOT, I can't tell you where I've stayed for more than, a few years at one particular location. And, here I am going on 7 years at INDOT. So there's definitely something different about it. And you can tell that we put a lot of emphasis into, the basic human respect, the dignity, not saying that other places don't, because I can't say that in good conscience. But on the same token, it's like, there's something special about working at INDOT specifically. I don't know. It's definitely something cool that we do here that we don't see anywhere else.
I absolutely agree with that, and we're trying to improve it and make it even better. Because I think that's kind of, if you talk to anybody that I work with on my team, it's always like, well, we can always do better, is what I always say. Like, we're doing great, but we can always do better. We have to evolve. We have to change. We have to, continue to make this a place of employer of choice. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Angela, we're running out of time here. Just a couple minutes left. Is there anything in particular that we haven't talked about, or anything that you just want to say? Any people you want to plug? Anything like that before we get out of here?
Well, I want to say that David Dalton, he's our workforce development director, and INDOT is the first agency to have their own, I believe, their own workforce development director, and their own diversity and inclusion director, by the way. So that just lets you know how how important these things are to us and how we're prioritizing them. But David Dalton is creating some really, really cool programs to help with that supply issue that we're having. He is working with adult learners. He is creating programs with high schools and adult learners to get them interested in the horizontal highway career path, and including some certifications. So if you haven't heard about that, you should check that out. It's really awesome. I'm really proud of the work that he's done.
Very cool. So where can people find information about people services? Any resources online? I imagine INDOT website is about where you can find that?
Yes. So the INDOT website would be the best place for that, or reaching out to me to connect, so I can connect you with someone on my team to help you with that.
Okay, excellent. And if you want to reach out to Angela, you can do so by calling our 800 number, our call center, 1-855 INDOT 4U. That's 463-6848. Angela, thank you so much for coming down and being on this week, or this month, I guess. It's been an absolute pleasure.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Jason.
Did you know that INDOT Freight helps make your drive safer by helping truckers find a safe, legal parking spot for their mandated breaks? To learn more about the Truck Parking Information Management System and other multimodal projects, go to multimodal.indot.in.gov.
Thank you for listening to On the DOT. Be sure and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you enjoy this show, please spread the word by leaving us a 5-star review. INDOT is on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and also on the web at indot.in.gov. The INDOT app for Apple and Android devices can be a handy tool if you're looking for road conditions or project information. To report a concern on a number state route, U.S. route, or interstate, please call our toll-free number at 1-855-INDOT-4U. You can also report your concerns online 24/7 at indot4u.com. Thank you for listening and safe travels.